Hey, hello everyone. Can you hear me well? Hello, hi. Can you hear me? Good, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining everyone. I think we can give everyone like a couple of minutes so those who are late can join in. Oh, we have 15 people already. Nice, nice, very nice. Be very welcome. Let me close this little window here so we get more screen size and zoom it in a little bit so we can see it better. All right, I'm going to give it one more minute for those late ones and then we can start. Just more 30 seconds and we can start. And if anyone wants some coffee, just have to go to Brazil and then we can have it together. There we go. I think we can start. So I would like to say hello to everyone and thank you so much for joining today. It's super nice to be presenting this to all of you. Hopefully, we can achieve something today and learn something new. So, for those of you who don't know me yet, I'm Alex. I'm the architect here in Back4App, and we are a platform that accelerates the creation of applications. It doesn't matter if you are doing a web application, a mobile application, it doesn't matter. If you come to Back4App, you will produce your application much faster because we group together into our frameworks all the common needs for software development. And I'm going to guide you through all the features that we have today. And hopefully, you'll be creating something new and amazing with us. So, first, I would like you all to go to our website. I'm going to put here in the chat is https back4app.com. And in there, you can create your free account. We don't charge you for any resources that we offer. All that you're going to see today is available for free. We only start charging you depending on the number of API calls that you do. But if you have small to medium apps, there are very good chances you can host with us for free for as long as you need. And this first screen that you're seeing right now is what we call Back4App dashboard. In here, you'll see all the applications that I have access to. As you can see, many clients put me as a collaborator to their apps because they wanted me to take a look at it. And you can create your first new app by clicking this button up here called New App. When you click this button, it will bring you to this new screen where you can give your app a good name. So I'm going to call this Cars app. When you click Create, we're going to create your application through all the application servers and your database through all the database servers. So as long as we have at least one server working among so many servers that we have, your application keeps up online. And here on the left side are all the features that we offer, and on the right side, a more detailed view of those resources. And I'm going to go very quickly through all these resources, but what is very, very cool is that pretty much all that you're going to see today is supported by our model context protocol. So you can use this new feature to have an AI to create the application for you. And it's super nice because this AI is fine-tuned on our knowledge bases. So it enforces our best practices and comes up with very, very good solutions, usually on the very first try. So let's go. The first one we're going to see is the database browser. It is where you're going to store your classes and objects. And for convenience, we already create two classes for you that are very common in a web or mobile application scope. The user class, so your application can have their users. So if you make like a chat or perhaps a social network, it's common to have users. So you can have the users of your application stored in this class. In here, you'll find everything that you already need for a user. So a username, a password, if you use that. This automatically integrates with OAuth modules. So if you want to have social login, or perhaps you have a module that you built yourself to communicate with some third-party applications that you have, as long as it talks OAuth, it's supported by Back4App. It also validates emails for you automatically. So lots of common tasks that you would have to do manually yourself. If you just come to Back4App and use the user class, you get those already covered. So we will start with a lot built and tested through time that you can rely on. And the other class is the role class. So as your application grows over time, it's hard for you to keep the privileges for writing and reading objects in a per user basis. So what we do is we group together users with similar privileges, let's say users and administrators and moderators, and then you create roles for those and put all the users inside the role. So all users inside that role will be affected by the roles rules. So you don't really have to use a per user basis to set up the permissions. You set up for a role and all the users inside it will be affected by that role. And in here you can create your custom classes as well. So if I want to create one, and by the way, I'm doing this graphically today so you can see it working, but it's very, very user-friendly to do on a programmatic basis as well. All right. So I'm going to click this Add a Class button. Once again, you can do all this programmatically as well. You can choose a few templates that we have over here. You can give it a good name. So my application is called Cars app. So I'm going to call this Car. And here is the first decision you have to take, if it's going to be a protected class or a public one. A protected class means that the user must be authenticated in order to operate records in that class. And a public class means that the user can operate those records without any authentication. When makes sense to have a public or a protected class? As a general rule of thumb, anything that is tied to a specific user or has some private data should be protected. Anything else could be public, but it's up to you to decide. Today, for this demo only, I will be creating everything as public, so I don't have to keep on re-authenticating to show the results. But once again, when you're creating this, especially in a production environment, you want to take a look if it should be protected. Most of personal data and private data should be protected, okay? So let's take this as public, and then you can just create a class or create a class and start adding columns. I will just create a class to give you an overview of what we do, and then we can start adding columns to those classes. So create class, and my car class showed up here, and I have a few properties already set for that class. So the first one is object ID, is a string. This is automatically created and populated by the application. So these all API are free. API calls are free until a certain limit. When you hit that limit, we start charging you, okay? So once again, object IDs are a string that are automatically created and populated by the application, and is unique inside this application. So for those of you familiar with databases, this works similarly to a primary key. We can ensure the application, the object ID will never be the same for two objects inside this application. Updated at and created at are timestamps. Those are also automatically created and updated by the application. So if you want to know when a record was first created or last updated, you can use these fields automatically. ACL stands for Access Control List. It is the ability for a person to read or write a specific record inside this database. So the granularity of security of our databases goes as deep as the object level. This gives you lots of power on showing and allowing a user to read or write a specific record. I can say, for instance, this user can see all the records inside this class except for this single one. So you can pinpoint what you want a user to operate inside a class. Okay? And you can start adding and customizing this class as you need. All you have to do, and once again, I'm doing this graphically, you can do it programmatically as well, is starting adding properties to this class. So if you click this add column button, here are the data types that we support. Basically, anything that is JSON encodable can be stored as a property. So we have Boolean, string, number, date, object, array, geopoint, which is a geolocation, polygon, which is a conjunction, it works like an array, not really an array, but of geolocation, and creates a polygon. File, you can send binary files, text files, you name it. Pointer and relation, I'll cover that later on. But once again, anything that is JSON encodable can be stored as a property. So we're creating cars. Makes sense we have a model. You can put a default value if you want, and then all new cars will have a default value unless you specify one. I'm not putting one. And you can set if it's a required field or not. And if you set it as a required and don't pass in a value, it will give you an error message. So I'm not also putting that. So add and continue. Let's also put a number here. Call it year. And also let's add a Boolean. Call it sold. And I want sold to default as false. Click add. And now if I just come to my car class again, you'll see I have model as a string, year as a number, and sold as Boolean. And when I created this car class, this automatically exposed methods on both REST APIs and GraphQL for creating, reading, updating, and deleting objects of this class. So you also got that covered from the moment you created the class. You don't have to create endpoints for CRUD operations in any class. And you can choose the technology that you find best, like REST API or SDK calls or GraphQL, whatever you're familiar with, we got you covered from the start. And for all these properties we already set, the validations for these properties are also built in. Let's try to add a car so you can see it working. So if I come here and click add new row, let's put a model. It's expecting a string, so let's put a string. My car is a Corolla. If I hit enter, it accepts. But in the year, it's expecting a number. What happens if I try to put some letters in here? I'm typing letters here. As you can see, nothing happens because it's expecting a number. It's supposed to accept only numbers. If I put a real number like 2025 here, it will accept. And sold, it's a Boolean. I only have true and false. Let's put false and click add. And my car is now saved to the database. Now, all these validations, if you writing software yourself, you would have to take care of it. But here in Back4App is already covered for you, so you can save a lot of time by not doing those validations. And you start with a sanitized database from the very, very beginning. It's practically impossible to write wrong data in Back4App. This also allows for very fast querying because you can correctly index based on the data type. And I'll cover this up later on the presentation. You can also use the MCP to populate this with more data. Now, we also have an index manager. For those of you familiar with databases, you can come here and create your own indexes if you think your app needs improved response times. But we also have an AI that runs in-house, optimizing the queries optimizing the indexes based on the queries that you do. So as your application grows, your user starts making more queries. The AI will start evaluating those queries and say, hey, this index does not make sense anymore. Let's create a new one based on what users are looking for. And this runs automatically and has very, very good results. So I really don't recommend you to come here and create indexes manually when the AI usually does a so much better job based on your user's experience. So it works like a charm. I really recommend you use the AI to create your indexes. And we also have the admin app. The admin app is basically a non-developer friendly front end that you can enable, so you can have non-developers to access your data as well. Because this dashboard that you're seeing right now on my screen is mostly developer driven. So you have lots of technical information that the user doesn't really need to know, like for instance, the object ID. This is more a developer focused front end. And if you enable the admin app, you end up with a user-friendly front end as well. Now, the coolest part that I think of Back4App is what we call Cloud Code. Cloud Code is our version of serverless functions. It is basically Node.js code, which is basically JavaScript, and it must be JavaScript that runs from our infrastructure instead of your devices. And when you implement your application with Cloud Code, especially with the help of the MCP, you end up with lightning fast applications that are very, very reliant and not subjected to user error. Because all code that you push in as Cloud Code is automatically secure, failure tolerant, and redundant, and also scalable. So as long, I know many users, especially newcomers, try to use the SDKs as much as possible because it's convenient, it's very easy to learn. But if you give it a little time to learn Cloud Code, which again is basically JavaScript, you end up with a much more solid application over time. And interestingly, and probably because the SDKs are so much easier to use, not many people use it, but you really should, because your application is much, much better when written by Cloud Code. The entry point for Cloud Code is this main.js file that is inside the Cloud folder. The Cloud folder is aimed to host all the backend code of your application. And we also have the public folder that can run static content. So if you have HTML files, JavaScript files, CSS files, you can host that in the public folder as long as it is static, okay? And here in the main.js file is the entry point. You can have substructures in here as well. You can create multiple folders, add multiple JavaScript files. You can even use Node modules inside Cloud Code. So if you go to npmjs.com, I'll leave a link here so you can check later, npmjs.com. You can download modules from there and install as Cloud Code. So that also saves a lot in developing time, because instead of developing it yourself, you can just find a module that does whatever you need to do, install it in Back4App, and you're good to go using in Cloud Code. And we have users here that use many npm modules to do all sorts of operations, from encoding videos all the way to doing some AI related stuff. You name it. As long as you find a npm module that can work with it, you're good to go. We also have something that we call cloud jobs. A cloud job is essentially this exact same thing as a cloud code function, except you can schedule the run for those. So if you have any kind of time intensive or computing intensive task that takes lots of time to run, or perhaps something that you need to run recursively, let's say you have a sanitization process that must run from time to time, let's say run every night, deleting users that didn't log in for the last year. Ideally, you code that as a cloud job, and then it will automatically run every night and give you a report here on job status, telling if it worked well, if it didn't, why it didn't, so you can debug. So it's a very flexible way to deploy tasks that needs to run recursively. Here in deployments, I don't have any right now. We'll have some during the presentation, but it is the versioning of your cloud code. So if you mess up things and break your application, you have a list of deployments in here, and you can roll back to any version that you had before. So for those of you who break the application, it's very easy to go back. We also have support for webhooks. If you work with webhooks, you just have to click add webhook here, set up the data. It works like a charm. And we have what we call config, which are parameters that are not really exposed to the users, so you don't have to query for those parameters. If you have, let's say, background colors and environment variables that you need to set, this is the place to set it. Here inside API, under Connect, we have documentation for the most common programming language. It's basically documentation. But here in the console, we have 3 types of console that you can use. The REST console makes REST API calls. The GraphQL console makes GraphQL calls. And the JavaScript console is a place that you can write basically JavaScript to test. I don't really recommend using this unless you know what you're doing, because it's very convenient, but at the same time, some people try to use it without the knowledge to do proper calling in JavaScript and end up breaking the application somehow. So if you're a JavaScript developer, you're good to go here. If you're not a JavaScript developer, learn JavaScript first, then you can use this one. And what's super cool for those of you who are just starting with the application is the API reference. If you have no knowledge at all about Back4App, but you do know one programming language at least, you can come here, click, it will open a new website. And in here, the application will read through the schemas of your database and creating methods for creating, reading, updating, and deleting data from your app for the 7 most common programming languages that we have in Back4App. So for instance, I just created the car class that we just customized. Here is my car class. If I expand this, you have the methods for creating, reading, updating, and deleting. Let me zoom it up a little bit so you can see it better. So let's say I want to create an object in the car class. I just click creating objects here. And here we have all the programming languages that support at least the 7 most common ones. And let's say I'm working with JavaScript. So I just click JavaScript here. It read through the schemas of my class. So if just have to click over here. And as you can see, I have my code so that I can just copy and paste into my project, and it will just work. And it works for all the programming languages that we have. So this flattens the learning curve by a lot, because now you don't have to really know what you're doing as long as you know the operation and the programming language you want to work with. But since the introduction of the MCP, I'll be covering that in a minute, it's much easier to use the MCP to do that. And we're entering the MCP in a few moments. I'll just go through a little more resources that we offer. For instance, we send push notifications for Android devices and iOS devices. We don't charge you, so it's completely free for any number of push notifications you want to send, which makes us a very nice platform for sending push notifications, because most other places will charge you to do so. So you can create audiences and send pushes from here, have the status if it was delivered or not. So it's very nice and very comprehensive. We also have logs that you can see in the console. So we have four types of logs: system logs, info logs, error logs, and access logs. So you're covered on pretty much any type of logs that will help you debug your application on the cloud side uh, of your app. But you can also develop locally. I actually recommend developing locally because the responses are faster. And once you're satisfied with the results that you got, you can push in the code to Back4App. And also we have all the app settings in here that you can change, like the app name, the versions of the stack that you're using, and roll back some versions of stuff that you have. But let me introduce you to what is today the most powerful tool that we have to offer, which is our MCP. And MCP stands for Model Context Protocol, and it allows any AI that supports MCP to interact directly with Back4App. And this is so much powerful because it allows to do pretty much anything that you want. So the very first step to set up MCP is to get a account key. So the MCP can authenticate into Back4App and actually start operating your account in your behalf. So if I come here on this drop down menu and click account keys, you see I have a place to add account keys here. I'm going to call mine Cursor because I'll be using Cursor today, but you can use it for Windsurf, Visual Studio Code, and Xcode. Any platform that actually supports MCP is covered by us. If you find one that you want to use and it's not supported, just give us a call on the support channel. We will try to cover it as soon as possible. And when I click this plus button, the Cursor MCP access key just showed up here. You can just copy this value. And now let's switch back to Cursor. Here I have a demo project I opened in Cursor. As you can see, my tree is completely empty. I can just set it up by clicking this icon up there. And in here, we can go to Tools and MCP. I already have mine set up. I'm going to change this. Now, this format is basically a JSON standard that you can copy and paste. It is on our documentation. I'll leave a link for that later on as well. And all that you have to change is this string up here that you need to paste in the access key that you just copied. So if you just copy that, save, and close, it might take a little while to this little LED turns green and show how many tools you have. It usually works on the very first try. If it shows no tools, perhaps you have some caching on your machine. You have to clear up the cache and it will start working. And now we can start prompting to the AI to interact with our Back4App account. So if I just close this and expand our chat, we can start changing, prompting. And I'm going to change my model here to something else. I prefer Claude myself, but you can use pretty much any model that you want. And let's start with a very basic prompt to see if it works. So please list all my Back4App apps. And hopefully it will give me a list of all apps I have in my account. So it's running. It can get a little bit of time, but it did run. So as you can see, my cars app showed up here with its application ID, and all my other apps from other clients are showing as well. So it is okay. Let me clear this chat so we can proceed. Now there we go. We can start prompting to interact with our car app that we just created. So in my Back4App app account, there's an app named Cars app. In that app, I have a class named car. Please fill up this class with 10 sample records of car. Now let's see how it does. Once again, it usually works very well on the very first try, but not always. This is why I never recommend using the MCP or any AI agent on a production environment. Usually you do all this in a development environment, and once you're satisfied with it, you can manually push the code to production. Never allow this to run directly in production, because it might break your production environment. You can always go back, there's no problem, but it's something you want to avoid. So let's see, it's still running. There we go. It got 10 new cars. So let's see if it worked on our class. Back here, I'm going to my apps. In my cars app, it's up here. If we go to database, now I have all my records up here. So for those of you who are developing new applications and need some test data, instead of going there and manually set records yourself or writing a program that creates those records, you can just ask the MCP to do it. It will do it for you, and it works like a charm. Now, let's try to get some more technical and get the MCP to write some code for us. Now, remember when I said the cloud code is one of our most powerful resources, and not many people use because they fall into the comfort of using the SDK, which is much simpler. This is not really the case anymore, because now you have the MCP to write code for you. So back here, I'm going to create a new file so we can write code to. So let's create a new file here, and I'm going to save this as main. Actually, it should go into our account. So cancel here, create a new file in the structure here. So I'm going to call this main.js so we can start writing code into it. And I just named it as main.js because the entry point for application is called main.js. You can name yours whatever you want. The AIs usually have a better interaction if you name it as main.js. So in my main.js file, please create a cloud code function that retrieves the top 3 oldest cars objects in the database. Now, hopefully this will understand and run it completely. Once again, it usually works very nicely out of the box, but sometimes you need to give it some guidance. So let's see how it does. There you go. It also created very nice documentation for us. Let's see. So the syntax is correct. So parse cloud define is how you define a new cloud code function. It called it get oldest cars, which seems correct. It made a query on the car class, sorted by ascending the created at. Remembering created at is the timestamp for the creation of an object, and limited it to 3, and returned the result. So it seems quite correct to me. So let's try to push that code in. I think it already did, so let's take a look at it. So if I come here and refresh the screen, and open my main.js file. Here it is. My code was already deployed to me, so I can pretty much just call it. And I can call it from the MCP itself, so I can have the own MCP to test to see if it worked. So please call that cloud code function and print out the result for me. There you go. It can choose to run it in a different ways. Usually it uses core, which is a program to make HTTP calls. And there you go. There you have all my 3 cars listed on cursor itself, so I can have this tested on my own machine. So once again, it doesn't matter the level of knowledge that you have, as long as you can correctly prompt it to the MCP exactly what you want, it will usually give you very good results from the very beginning. So I think it's a good time to make a pause on this, and so I can read a few comments of you, perhaps a few questions. Let me scroll this up. So finalists will be building their prototype on backend and Back4App. Yeah, you are very welcome to do so. So please create your free account. And by the way, using the MCP is also free, so you can pretty much just install it and start using no charge on that. APIs for free, I already answered that. So who don't know that much backend development, yes, it helps a lot because it acts in 2 ways, actually. It saves you from developing a lot of stuff that you would need to develop yourself, because the SDKs have that covered. And now with the MCP, you can get your code working and also ask it to document and explain the execution of code for you. So it actually works as a teacher, showing why it chose that solution, and once again, giving very good solutions, usually on the very first try. Now, once again, it might not give you a very good answer, especially if you don't prompt it detailed enough. But as long as you can go refine your prompt and telling it to fix what you found wrong, it will get there eventually, and then it can explain the logic to you by using the MCP. It's a very, very powerful tool and very user-friendly. I really recommend you all to try this out. It's very nice. So, hello everyone. All the finalists, yes, we'll be doing on Back4App. Because finally it's okay. From Back4App, can we also make user authentication? Yes. There are many types of user authentication we support. So the basic one is the username and password. Works for most people, but we also support any kind of OAuth integration that you need. So if you need to integrate with a system that you have, or that your company that you work for have, as long as it talks OAuth, you can use that in Back4App. And we also support integrations with multiple social logins. So if I have Google sign in with Apple, Facebook login, you name it. We have all that covered and already built in our website. Let me just show you where it is. So if you come here to app settings and then server settings, in here you'll find most technical customizations that you can do in your app. So you can see the logs already from here. You can set custom options, environment variables for the running of your application. If you have some sensitive data you don't want to expose, you can write that as environment variables. You can find the documentations to download our command line tool, so you can programmatically work from your local machine to Back4App. You can set live query, which is basically our real-time delivery of data. We also support real-time delivery of data. So if you need real-time delivery, such as in a chat, for instance, you can just enable it from here, and it will automatically start subscribing to classes and delivering real-time data to the devices. But here you'll find the Apple login, Facebook login, Twitter login, vContact is a Russian platform for social networks as well. We also support that. And the push notifications for Android and iOS are also from here. So we do support lots of authentications, and for those which are not supported directly, as long as it talks OAuth, we can support that as well. Now let's go back to the questions. Watch this after the live session. Yes, we will leave this live session on our channel. You can just jump in and watch as many times as you want. Can we go back? Yes, you can. Exactly. Can you shout out my channel? Okay, Firebase, Superbase, and all platforms for backend don't give the API and Cloud Code Functions deployment for free trial, but this is the first time I'm seeing. Yes, you can have any number of Cloud Code Functions you want and one cloud job completely free on a free account. So just go there, create your free account. Once again, we don't charge for any resources that we offer. Everything that you're seeing here today is for free. Now, there are one or other functionality that we ask you to put a credit card, but it's only for validation. We don't charge you. It's just because some people abuse it, so we need to have a way to validate that you are a real person. So for very specific usages, we need a credit card to validate that you are a real person. But there's not a single dollar charged on your card. And once again, everything is for free, and we only start charging you when you get a certain API threshold. So if you have a small to medium operation, chances are you can run in Back4App for free forever. What else do I have? I miss working with you guys. Oh, hello, Rick. Support everything, especially this app. Can I train an AI model? Yes and no. This is aimed to web applications and mobile applications. So if you write cloud code that can actually rely on some kind of third-party service to train the AI, yes, but you don't have really access to very high processing power on the free plans, so you don't have access to GPUs and things like that to train an AI model. So I wouldn't recommend doing so, because it'd just be frustrated if you try. What I really recommend is that you write a cloud code function in here that connects to an AI model that already exists, and then you can use that model from inside Back4App to do all sorts of operation. We have many videos on our channel showing how to connect to ChatGPT and other AIs to recognize images and do all sorts of processing. Even talking to bots, you can use AIs to do that as well. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have lots of content in there. Chances are any questions that you have already have been answered there. So it's a very good place for you to get answers. And we also have our community that you can join. But let's proceed on to the presentation. I think I covered most questions that we had. So we can also have the MCP to have very high level prompts. So for those of you who are not really developers or are just starting and don't really know how to prompt technically a very detailed prompt, you can go very high level and it will probably pretty much understand what you mean and how to persist that in your database. So let's try that out. So this app will be a social network for car aficionados. I need a class to persist photos of cars from users. Please create a new class into that app that allows parse users to oops, to persist posts with photos. Let's see how that goes. Once again, most of the times, very good results from the first try. Let's see if it's going to create one. So let's run this. Sometimes it asks for authorization, sometimes it runs automatically. You can set this up on your cursor settings. Once again, this usually takes a few moments to think and make the API requests. Okay, it said it created. Let's take a look and see if that is true. There you go, I have car post, and what did they put inside it? A caption, a photo, which is a file object, so I can now start uploading in here, likes count, a pointer to car, so I can select which car I'm posting photos from. It also added a location, not exactly the data type I prefer. I would use a geopoint for this. Once again, geopoint is for georeferenced positioning. So it uses the string, not ideal solution. We can ask it to change. Some tags, which is an array, and a comments counter. So it seems a very nice, not completely correct solution. Once again, I would use GeoPoint here, but it's a very good solution to start with. We can even start trying to add new records in here. So let's add a row. I don't know if I have a photo over here. Let's try to upload something. Yeah, I have a PSD file over here. Let's open it. And let's put a like count of 100 and click add. This should probably upload the photo for me. It's a PSD file. It will not open on the browser though, but there you go. It's saved. So my file was uploaded to the cloud. So as you can see, it is a very, very flexible system that allows very high-end prompts to be executed and to get to a solution. And once you get your classes created, you can pretty much come back here and ask it to create Cloud Code to interact with that and also create front ends as well. So let's create a front end website so I can show the social network for my friends. In that app, into its public folder, create a index.html file that is beautiful and professional about what the app does. Once again, it's going to make a call. It's going to create the landing page. And for those of you who are more skilled developers, we also have in our channel very, very highly technical content for more advanced usage. We are recording a series of continuous integration and continuous delivery. For those of you who are interested, be sure to subscribe to our channel. We always have new content getting into there. Let's see, it's activating web hosting, so we can have a URL for that. It's now deploying it. There we go, it said it worked, so let's take a look. If we go back here, cloud code, into my public folder, let's open the index.js file. Yeah, it seems it created quite a lot of code in here. Let's see how that translates into a real app. So let's go back here and try the URL it gave us. So open. Oops, it opened into a new window on the other monitor. So let's put it here. And there we go. It looks quite nice for a single prompt, right? So, and by the way, it's hosted in Back4App, and once again, all for free. You don't have to pay to host your web pages with us too, as long as it is static content or as long as it connects to your cloud code that's also running in Back4App. So this can get as complex as you need. If I need to put inside this website an authentication that automatically integrates with the parse user class, and inside that validates the records from multiple classes to see what the user has or doesn't have access to, it will work like a charm. So there you go, guys. I think this pretty much sums up what we have for today. This is a quick demo. We do so much more than this, but that will take a lot more than what we have. So I think we now could open for some questions, and I can answer specific questions that you might have. So if you have any questions, just leave it here on the channel, on the chat. I will be reading those. And let me scroll a bit up so we can see if I have questions already. Yeah. Make this video private. Yeah, we can make it private. Right now I'm storing user data locally on the browser via local storage. Yeah, but I'm exploring how to make it cloud-based and globally accessible. Yeah, Tamay, persisting user data on local storage is not really a good idea because local storage might be captured very easily, and it's not a very good place for you to store unless you do all sorts of encryption operations. Ideally, the user data should be persisted on the cloud and only accessible if you have some security check on that user prior to releasing the data. So that actually raises a very good question. As you saw, we created a parse cloud code function that you can just call, but if you get the URL for this function, pretty much anyone can call it. So you can also ask the MCP to make this very secure and ask it to check for authentication inside this before actually executing. So let's try that out. In my cloud code function named get oldest cars, implement some security / authentication checks as the way it is now. Anyone with the URL could call and retrieve those records. Now, if I specify this in the moment it first created the cloud code function, it would create it from the start. I didn't, because sometimes you do want people to have access to your APIs without any authentication, but private and user-related data should be protected at all times, and you really need to ensure you're making validations before releasing any kind of data like that. So we just changed it. For me, as you can see, it's going to try to extract the user from the request, and if I don't have that by having this exclamation mark here, it's going to just throw an invalid session token exception for me, and it will not execute the code, which means I need to have a account into that app and must be authenticated in order to call that method from now on. And once again, Tanmay, don't store your private data in local storage, it's very easy to bypass that. So it's not very secure at all, unless you're doing all sorts of cryptography, which you can actually do, but it's much easier to store it on the cloud and have it checked like this. Who else has questions? What is the best way to migrate that to a cloud backend like Back4App, especially for syncing across devices and real-time updates? Okay, Tamay, one of the easiest ways and best ways to do that is through the MCP. The MCP running locally has access to pretty much anything you give it access to. So you can give it access to your local storage, you can give it access to your Back4App, and then you can say, hey, just migrate this data to the cloud for me and ensure all the validations and user authentications are checked before releasing the data. And if you need to have real-time updates on that, all you have to do is to come here on the app settings, server settings, scroll down all the way to server URL and live query, click settings here. And in here, yeah, I need to verify my card. This is one of the features you need to verify. But anyways, in here, once you validate, you have a checklist of all your classes. You just check the classes you want to support real time. It's usually not all classes of an app need real time support. So if you have like a big application with multiple classes, you just check those ones you need real time data delivery. And then you go back to MCP and say, hey, I'm using live queries in this app for this, and that class. Now make the code to work with real-time data. The MCP will understand that and start creating your codes all supporting real-time data delivery for the specified classes. Right? Would you recommend parse live queries, cloud code functions, or something else for this kind of transition? I would not recommend for the transition from the local storage to parse, because it's usually a one-time operation. You just get what you have, put it into the cloud, you never use it anymore. So it doesn't really make sense to have a scalable, failure-tolerant operation to do that just once. So for this specific case, I would recommend using the SDK, because you have easy of use and more productivity time-wise. So we just ask the MCP to create this code for you. It will read your records from local storage, persist it on the cloud, and you never use it again. So I would use the SDK route for that. Any other question that we might have? I think we're reaching 1 hour. So I think it's very much covered. If you have any other questions, it's the time for it. No one? Okay. So guys, thank you so much for joining. It was a pleasure to talk to all of you. Be sure to, thanks to the answer, as a follow-up, would it make sense to serialize the local storage data into JavaScript class? You can do that, but the parse objects are a special type of data. They have some mandatory fields that you need to use. So you can you can serialize that data to easily read it from the parse SDK. But if you just want to read it from your app with the parse SDK instantiated, you don't really have to serialize. The SDK can do that for you, and it will save you a lot of time. Okay? So guys, thank you so much for joining. I really recommend any questions that you have to check our YouTube channel. We have, once again, lots of content there. Chances are any questions you have is already answered in there. We also have our super nice community in Slack. People are very, very active in there. Be sure to join Slack and join the community in there, because we always take a look and answer questions. And please create your free account with us. Everything is for free and super easy to use. I'm sure if you give it a try, especially now with the MCP, which is also free, chances are you will start using Back4App for all your projects, because it's fast, it's free, and it's super nice. Okay? So I hope you have a good day, everyone, and hope to see you back soon. See ya. Bye-bye.